Without a shadow of a doubt, it's the Crunkest Show in social media history. I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone. I got my man in the building, Donovan Sadiq, the Queen, Demetra K, and I am the 5-star general. Say, if y'all ain't heard about the story of Sean Ellis and the Boston Police Department, we finna wake you up tonight, man. And once again, Megan hot like fish grease, Megan the Stallion. But baby, the type of fish you is, you could have stayed in the pond, homegirl. Let's go with it. Say, man, I want to welcome you to another episode of the War Zone and tell you thank you for tuning in. And tell you I appreciate you guys tuning in on behalf of all three of us, because we know without you guys, it would not be a show. I'm going to start it off by discussing, it's in the news that not just Houston, but a lot of different places that a lot of kids are failing with this virtual learning that they're doing in school. And I'm going to tell you why that happens. And I don't want y'all to take this the wrong way. When you white folks scream for something, a lot of y'all don't do the research. A lot of y'all don't do the research. And I'm going to give you an example. Like last year, there was a big thing about, switching the bus times for kids in the city of Houston to catch the bus in the morning. Well, white folk went to war for it. That didn't work at all, because you're in the city of Houston, you got traffic at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. But here's the question. How you going to get middle school and high school kids to school at the same time? On the same buses. So you blew that. So now we're in the middle of a pandemic. So now you screaming, we need to go to virtual learning. But did it ever occur to you that a lot of these kids don't know how to do those assignments? That a lot of these school systems just gave computers to kids to say they gave it to them? And most of the kids that I know, especially in the black schools, the only thing they learn on those computers is how to get to Pornhub, YouTube, and stuff like that, and Facebook. And now your children are suffering in their grades because of decisions that you make. And I'm telling you, in the city of Houston, I know what the problem is. You white folk wanted something. You beat the drum. They gave you what you wanted, and it's failed once again. So now these kids are suffering academically because they were not mentally, physically, psychologically prepared to deal with online learning. And in the city of Houston, it looks horrible when you look at the data. Donovan, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. I mean, you got people our age, grown-ass adults, that can't deal with online learning. We expect these kids who are, just going through the system to learn just as well. I don't think so. We have the same problems out here in California. These kids are, in my opinion, you might as well call this year and possibly next year a wrap for people in academia. It's just a wrap. I mean, just freeze everybody where they're at in place. Okay, you're going to be a 20-year-old senior. It's just going to happen. That's the way I look at it. But in regards to the news, it's been kind of quiet. Donald Trump is still trying to overturn the election in Michigan, and it is amazing to me how many people out there still think that this man has not done any crimes whatsoever. It's all propaganda. It's all made up. But yet you can go to public record, United States courts, get these records and see that this man has been charged with various crimes. Michael Cohen was just released from prison a couple months ago for payments to Stormy Daniels, illegal payments to Stormy Daniels. Donald Trump was indicted as an unindicted co-conspirator. So when he gets done with the presidency, stuff's going to be coming out in regards to that. But for those that didn't get a chance, if you watch the Fresh Prince reunion, they say it was highly successful watched thing. If you didn't see it, you don't have the streaming service. It was on YouTube free, so you can still see it if it's still there. But other than that, nice and quiet. It's Friday in California. Curfew is at 10 o'clock. I got the word from the governor himself. Let me catch your black asses out there past 10 and see what happens. Demetra?
Yeah, so hello everybody. Welcome to Friday night edition of the War Zone. I hope you guys are having a fabulous day. And so in keeping in step with the coronavirus news, you guys know that some curfews are going on. California specifically having a curfew between 10 p.m. and 5 a.m. You're not supposed to be out and about. They're trying to cut down the coronavirus because it is surging there and everywhere, honestly. But I just like to say before we get started, you guys, Thanksgiving is coming up. And I know that everybody's used to being with their families and everything like that on Thanksgiving, but you know, they're telling us not to do that, especially if it's not your immediate family, because these little events are actually super spreaders to where you might be with your family, 10, 15, 20 people, whatever. Then you go out about your life and then you spread it. And so the holidays especially are going to be super spreader events. And so if you can avoid that, please stay at home. And I'll tell you, in April is my 50th birthday. It'll probably be my second birthday in quarantine because people just won't stay home, wear their mask, social distance and all that. And I sure would love to at least go outside, for that birthday. But, even if I wasn't able to do that, so what, right? So the point that I'm making is let's try to do our best to, keep this at a minimum so eventually we can go on about our life. Gary?
Well, I'm confused. The reason I say that is because, it's cool to quarantine us or lock us down from 10 at night till 4 in the morning, but who the hell really moves around at that time of the night? It don't even make sense. If you really want to do something, man, shut it down during the daytime. I'm with it either way it goes. Shut it down and leave it open. Shut it down and leave it open. Doesn't matter to me. But I mean, somebody needs to make an executive decision, and all this corona stuff is just common sense decisions. And now the best thing that you can do is tell people don't hang out with each other on Thanksgiving. Well, we know them knuckles down in Houston ain't gonna listen. They gonna do what they do. Don't let the trail ride pop off because it's gonna be horses shaking their ass and women shaking theirs too.
Yeah, I agree with you. Who in the hell is going? Well, I guess some people, with their nightlife or whatever is going to be out there between 10 and 5. But I mean, it's to the point to where the Trump administration has completely abandoned the coronavirus. They don't talk about it at all. To where a lot of the governors are like, okay, wait a minute, we're gonna have to just do what we got to do. We're not going to wait for instructions from the federal government because clearly that's not their interest. In fact, a lot of governors, there's 10 of them, have already started meeting with the Biden administration, the Biden administration to come and trying to figure out what they need to do right now. Because as you guys know, too, Trump is not going to give up the White House. And they said, and I heard today on the news, Biden was saying, this thing may go into February or so with Trump saying, hey, who gonna check me, boo? I'm not leaving. And so they're trying to figure out what to do now in order to get this thing under control because it's getting really bad out there.
Well, do what you do to poor people that can't pay their rent. Go have them people evict his ass.
Yeah, the military will go in there and just escort him out. Yeah.
They take all his ex-wife stripper thongs and throw the motherfuckers on the side of the road on Pennsylvania Avenue, like you do us, throw our shit outside and put their ass on the curve. You've been evicted, and that's all it boils down to. Every day we try to figure out what we're gonna talk about. And I've been watching this Netflix series called Trial 4 by a guy named Sean Ellis up in Boston, Mass, back in 1994, that was convicted after 3 trials. Three. 2 hung juries and then the third one. And gave my man basically natural life, and on top of that 40 something additional years for a crime that he actually did not commit. Cops fabricated evidence, coerced witnesses into lying. And when I sat there and I watched it, and I'm still watching it, it was like, how many kids, and he was 19 when it happened. He did 21 years. How many kids have they done this to? Why don't these folk go into the legislation when they go into session, change the laws on the statute of limitations to deal with the crooked ass cops and these DAs that do that to kids? Now, I know I got a lot of judges that watch this program. How do you feel knowing that something like that happened in your courtroom? You people that scream, we need to sit on these juries. Are some of y'all mentally equipped to sit on these juries? Because you're convicting these people of these crimes, sitting there looking at evidence that doesn't even fucking add up. But because it involves a police officer, it seems like you are mandated to get somebody. So when I called Demetri, I told her just scan over it. And I mean, I'm like, this is bullshit, man. To take 21 years of that man's life, to threaten his girlfriend with trying to take her child if she didn't make up a story. Uncle out on parole after 14 years. If you don't change your story, we're going to send you back to prison. Now we sit around and we watch these documentaries, but these motherfuckers don't do a day in jail for the shit they do. Where's the justice, Donovan?
No, what's that saying? Justice pursued is a justice that is always fleeting. You know, so it's just going to take a while to get there. And by the time it gets there, most of us are gone, and our grandchildren have already left the planet. You know, I was lucky to have sat on a jury case, and I'm going to tell you guys that was number one. It was nothing like Perry Mason or what you see on Matlock or nothing like that. It's nothing like that. But I'm going to tell you, it was a young brother on trial. I'm going to tell you, within 10 minutes of going in that jury room, regardless of the evidence that was presented, they were going to convict his black ass just like that. And I was the lone juror that was like, no. And it wasn't because he was a brother. It was the fact that one of the key witnesses in the room was not at the trial. And without that key witness, it's a he say, she say thing. But like you said, if you don't have the mental capacity to logically think, I've seen cases where you had a majority black people on the case, and they still convicted the brother with evidence that was questionable. So, yeah, it's amazing. Demetri?
D, let me ask you a question. You're sitting on this jury. There's really only one witness against Sean Ellis, Rosa Sanchez. The first two times they took Rosa in the room with the lineups, with the picture lineups, she picked the wrong person. They take her out the room, downstairs to a car with the two detectives who were actually drug detectives who took over a homicide investigation. No homicide experience, but they take it over. So they take this witness down, and 30 minutes later, one of the detectives comes back up and says she can identify him. But before you make your decision on guilty or innocent, I meant to tell you that the witness had bloodlines to one of the detectives. Clearly knew the detective. Uncle was married to some woman that was kin to the detective. And all of a sudden, you couldn't identify this man. But the third time after they take you out the room, put you in the car, you clearly know who he is. D?
Yeah, so obviously that is problematic, but I just want to fill it in a little bit. I didn't get a chance to watch the series because it's first time I heard of it. I don't watch a lot of TV. But I did get a chance to research it. So just to kind of fill in a little bit. So Sean Ellis was 19 at the time that he was arrested for the murder of a police officer by the name of John Mulligan. John Mulligan was shot in the face 5 times. And Sean Ellis was at a Walgreens, if you will, buying diapers, and he got caught up in that. Basically, he was framed for murder. Now, it was also said that the officer, Mulligan, was in on a drug deal, if you will, corrupt police department. And sounds like, you know, Sean Ellis was set up for the murder. And as Gary was saying, there's a lot of witnesses too that were saying that he didn't do it, but there was a lot of witness tampering and coercion and things like that. Also, one of the things that I found interesting is that commissioner at the time, Bill Bratton. Now, everybody's heard of Bill Bratton, right? Bill Bratton has been in every police department from New York to Los Angeles to Boston. He's been everywhere, right? So he was the police commissioner at that time. And I just thought that was so odd when that happened during his watch. Again, within that police department, there was a lot of police corruption. There was drug deals and stuff, which is like not new, right? In police departments, if you will. But so anyway, as Gary said, he on a third trial, he was actually found guilty. And then his lawyers did a lot of work to get him out of prison. And they were going to try him a fourth time, but they decided to let it go. It should also be said that a police officer actually is the police chief, a black man by the name of William Gross is a police chief there in Boston. It was at 2015 anyway. He says he believes that Sean Ellis is guilty. He says just because he said they didn't necessarily find him not guilty, they found something wrong with the witnesses. So it's like, all right, if there were some witnesses, you know, issues with the witnesses, to me, it kind of sounds like maybe it was set up, but the black police chief was like, no, he, you know, we fully believe that he is guilty of this crime. But as his lawyers were saying, the police department didn't want to admit that there was a whole lot of malfeasance going on within that department, because then they have to admit to a lot of things that they did wrong, and also admit that they did this kid who was 19, who served 21 years of his life wrong. So, but you know, again, it's nothing new. I knew somebody who went to prison on a rape charge for something they clearly did not do. The lady was mad because he was breaking up with her. In fact, after they arrested him, the lady didn't even, she's a complaining witness, right? She didn't even show up to court. They had to subpoena her, threaten her with jail time to come and testify. And also, it was said that people who were sitting on a jury who didn't look like us was saying even before they heard anything about the trial, oh, he's guilty. I know he's guilty. And they sent him up the river for a rape he didn't do. So, you know, this is nothing new.
Let's look at the murder weapon. Well, first of all, supposedly Sean and his friend murdered this cop to steal his gun. The only prints that you see anywhere on the door of the little SUV on the window, which happened to supposedly be his friend's fingerprints. Well, the only fingerprint on the gun when they supposedly found the gun was one fingerprint of Sean's girlfriend. Because supposedly Sean brought the gun home and she held a gun. But I mean, if you held a gun, you'd have far more than one print on it. The way the girls say they got the print, she was at court, supposedly to testify. They told her, well, we got to take some fingerprints. They took her fingerprints and she didn't think nothing of it. She'd never been through the system. And they took her fingerprint. And then all of a sudden her print ends up on the gun. But Sean's prints is not on the gun. His friend's prints are not on the gun. You see what I'm saying? And it's just bigger than us just talking about the details. I want to know what the people think should happen to these goddamn cops when stuff like this come out. I don't give a damn if it's 21 years later. I don't care. I think somebody should go to jail. I think they should get the matter of fact, give them the same sentence you gave to the people. If you gave Sean natural life, the cops should get natural life for fabricating the whole thing. But do you have the mental capacity to sit on a jury and make a rational, impartial decision? Well, see, people say you shouldn't play God. I don't want to sit on one because I already know how crooked the system is. And, you know, when they take some of these high profile cases, they do certain things and we don't even think about it. They made sure that, you know, they had no choice, but the DA was black in Boston at the time. The judge was black. So you're going to level the playing field. That's what I call it, leveling the playing field. And that way nobody should complain. But we're talking about Boston, Massachusetts back in 1994, 95. You get this man, now watch this, the only time you'll hear me say it. You get this man natural life on a bullshit case that really don't have no evidence under Joe Biden's crime bill. Another black man under that goddamn crime bill, and you took 21 years of his life from him. Not only should the state pay some type of compensation, because that crime bill was written and signed by the federal government, they should put compensation on top of that. You can't give somebody 21 years of their life back. And the best you can come up with, oh, we made a mistake. I'll mistake your ass. Because you keep me in there 21 years, I'm coming out and I'm going right back. Because I'm going to holler at whoever did it to me. And then you want us to trust these systems that you have in place. But every time you look up, it's a big ass thing because, you know, it happens. And then you go make a Netflix series of it like it ain't shit. You know, the Central Park 5, you know, that case right there, it's thousands of cases. I mean, one of our viewers, Carlos Johnson, her son, sentenced under some bullshit laws when Kamala Harris happened to be the fucking attorney general of the state of California. These kids are getting life on first offenses. And I'm not understanding how we just sitting back and don't have a problem with what the fuck we see with this system. And that's why I say the folks out here supposedly fighting for justice reform, you got more than enough examples to go on and get this done. But these politicians that are in place that's supposed to get it for us, they ain't gonna never do nothing. Donovan?
No, you know, I think one of the biggest problems we have, especially within our community, well, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. You know, they wouldn't have charged him if he wasn't where he wasn't supposed to be. You know, that's why we have some, you know, block him up. Remember, when the crime bill was being debated in Congress, a lot of congressional black caucus members, a lot of pastors, a lot of these folks approved it. And Joe Biden says it all the time. He goes, well, yeah, you know, I didn't really write the bill, but these black people signed off on it. You know, the so-called black leaders signed off on it. So it couldn't have been all that bad. But the ignorance within our community, you know, we know, you know, I get so frustrated because when you talk to people who are, I'm not saying people are stupid, they're ignorant, a significant difference. And ignorance is, that's like me flying airplanes. I can tell you all the technicality about flying an airplane, and you wouldn't know what the hell I'm talking about. That makes you ignorant. Doesn't make you stupid. You know how the airplane flies, basically, but the technicality of it. And I talk to these people, and you know, they'll sit there and they'll be like, well, you know, that if systematic racism exists, and we know it exists, redlining and everything that they do to us, how do you put your faith in a system that is regulated to lock us up on the weakest of charges, no matter what we do, jaywalking, this, that, anything can be thrown at us, and yet we sign off on it like it's well, you know, don't do the crime, don't do the time. You're in a system that is set up for us to fail, and they're going to make money off of us either if we're walking out in the streets or if we're in the military industrial prison complex. Either way it goes, they're making money off of us. Demetra?
Gary, you want to get it or you want me to get it?
I go first. My man said Trump led the push. Very Central Park 5. I think he was trying to say something else. Let me ask you a question. What the hell do Trump have to do with Sean Ellis? This ain't got nothing to do with Trump. This is the Boston, Massachusetts police department that concocted a motherfucking story that took 21 years of this kid's life. 20. I think the only thing good I saw come from it was his mom was on crack. And she say she just hit a spot where she had to let the crack pipe go to get her mind right to try to save her child. What did Sean Ellis do besides go to the store at 3 in the morning to get some Pampers? What did he do? What the hell does that have to do with Donald Trump? Say, let me ask you a question. The last piece of pussy you got, was that Trump's fault? The last time your motherfucking ass caught a flat tire, was that Trump's fault? Everything ain't Donald Trump's fault, man. I'm talking about Sean Ellis. If you don't understand what we're talking about, go look at the damn story. There are tons of Sean Ellises in every major city in America. This has happened too many times. And we are sitting here and we're not doing anything about it except worrying about Donald Trump. Man, I'll be glad when Trump go, because you have to blame this shit on somebody else. America was fucked up before Donald Trump showed up, man. But we suck ass so much that we don't want to give none of these other people credit that to mess this thing up before this man got here. So the judicial system and everything that's happening to black people didn't start happening until Donald Trump got there. It was in 1994, man. What Trump got to do with that shit too? Dimitri?
You actually took the words right out of my brain. Like, I can't wait for Trump to be long gone, because then who you gonna blame everything on? You know, you won't have any more talking points once he's gone. You'll have to sit and come to terms with a lot of this stuff actually happened under the Democrats, and you know, the people saw that you go out there and you vote for. You're gonna have to one day come to terms, but what else do you got in your bag? Is it just all Trump related? Like, what? Like, did you pull that out of thin air? Like, where did you get that from? I don't understand it. Like, can we focus for one moment? Trump is gone. You got what you think you wanted, but this actually, what happened to Sean Ellis was that under Joe Biden, who brags about being the author of every major and minor crime bill since 1976. This is his baby of all of our black people being sentenced unfairly under these mandatory minimums. And so you keep on wanting to talk about Trump. It's like, what are you going to do when Trump is like all gone? Who are you going to talk about then? And then I know why I brought up Bill Bratton at the time. So Bill Bratton, when he was in New York, kind of bringing it back to Trump in a weird way, he and Rudy Giuliani championed this policy called broken windows. You guys ever heard of that? Broken windows, basically, that says that in the neighborhoods, the urban areas where they have these buildings with broken windows, whenever you see that, that was indicative to white people, I guess, that there were crimes that could go on. And so they cracked down on black people, whether it was jaywalking, public drinking, loitering, any small really thing you can think of, they cracked down to them to the fullest to stave off the major crimes. And so it also goes lockstep with the stop and frisk under Michael Bloomberg. But Bill Bratton being there at the time, I mean, I fully believe, and I could be wrong, but he was complicit in what happened to Sean Ellis under, you know, his broken windows mentality in cracking down on black people. But, you know, so at some point in time, like, y'all just gotta let it go. Like, take some accountability for the things that the people you actually are voting for continue to do. Donovan just told you about the Congressional Black Caucus, who thought it was a great idea what Joe Biden was doing to black people. They wanted the crime to go away, but they never addressed the fact that the drugs and stuff that was brought into our neighborhoods didn't get there by black people. They never addressed that, but they were cool on dilapidating a whole generation and then some of black people. So, man, get your mind right. And I also want to ask, what's wrong with you Negroes? What's wrong? Like, what's wrong with you? Are you incapable of any like deep, not even deep thought process, but just a little bit of critical thinking? I mean, I realize that it's a lost art nowadays. People don't really engage in critical thinking like they used to. I'm gonna start a campaign called Make Critical Thinking Fashionable Again. Make critical thinking great again. Make it great again. So when you get ready to say silly stuff like, well, what about Trump? Say to yourself, but did Trump really have anything to do with this? Like, who should I really be placing the blame on? The next time you want to bring Trump up, you think like that.
We could talk about that all day because a lot of people that play smart ain't smart. They just not. But I want to get over here to this other subject. Megan album came out today, right? Or a new video or something. I'm not really in tune with it because I don't listen to that foolishness. I just don't. I like good hip hop music. I grew up on Easy, Cube, and Dre. I grew up on Self Destruction, Run DMC, you know, when music was just good music. And today her album came out. So I want to ask the strong African-American woman on the panel, what's your ideologies on the album, the video? What did you see and what did you hear?
Before we get to that, Saul says, what's wrong with you? It's a show, D. Well, no, this is more than just a show. We try to put out good information and knowledge so that everybody can, you know, use it and think about it. But it's more than just a show, because it's people like you, and I say this in the most respect that I can. It's the people like you that are most certain of bullshit. And because you're so certain of the bullshit, you go and spread that and teach that to people who know even less than you do. And they take your word as gospel and they run around, they repeat it to people who are just as ignorant as they are. And so that's why it gets under my skin with people like you won't think. You won't think, and then you just loud and wrong. You're loud and you're wrong, and you teach that nonsense to everybody else. So all I'm asking you to do is just use a little critical thinking when you just blurt out stupid shit like, oh, Trump, it's Trump's fault that the Martians, jumped over the moon. It's Trump's fault because I went to the store and there was no milk left. I mean, come on, dude, really? I'm not making you a target, but, when you say silly stuff, then we just going to have to point it out so that you can get your understanding rearranged. But anyway, let's get to Megan Thee Stallion. So Megan Thee Stallion has a video, a song that she dropped, an album. I don't know, something. I'm not a Megan Thee Stallion fan, but my daughter, who was, a millennial, if you will, was watching the video. And I also read early this morning that Taraji P. Henson was in the video at all of 50-something years old. She's in this video and she's showing her booty. The video, the song is called Body. And in this song video, Megan is bragging about her body and how, dudes want her and how women are jealous of her. She's talking about her boobs and her butt and, the revolutionary stuff, the games, like we never heard that before, right? And so as I was watching this video with my daughter, and my daughter's not impressed either, by the way. She said it's just the same, like the lyrics, it's all the same. I said, how is it that Black women, and you guys saw Megan on Saturday Night Live when she was talking about, she had Malcolm X in the background talking about Black women are the most unprotected, disrespected, and all that other stuff. Like, how can you, out of one side of your mouth, say those things, evoke that of Malcolm X, and then you continuously shake your ass and talk about your ass and your titties and and what you're going to do to it. And like, how can you be mad that you're not respected, but then you don't put yourself out there in a respectable manner? Now, I get it. It's eye candy, for the men and stuff. He said, yeah, they were rapping the same thing in the 80s, but not quite, because I'm from the 80s as well. You may be too. I was born in the 70s, 1971, so I remember rap. Hell, we were there at the inception of rap, and women did not talk like that in the 80s. Women actually had to rap and be talented in the 80s. The most salacious thing I could think of in the 80s was that of Salt and Pepper when they came out with Push. But even that was kind of, under the radar, right? But women weren't talking like that in the 80s. They weren't shaking all their body parts. She had the Queen Latifah's, and she dressed like a dude. MC Light, She dressed like the dude. Salt and Pepper, you know, they were sexy, but they still had clothes on. But the stuff that, yeah, okay. And we can even concede the point to Little Kim in the 90s. Okay, that's when it really started to get rough, right? But the women in the 80s, nah, they didn't talk like that. I mean, I could be wrong, but I doubt it. And if they did, that stuff wasn't mainstream. You didn't turn on your local radio station and hear that kind of stuff. You had to go find that kind of stuff.
But, you know, but isn't that kind of hypocritical when, you know, in the 90s, when Scarface, the Ghetto Boys, NWA, Ice Cube, you know, the male misogyny, they can do it. Why can't we do it?
You can do it. You can do it, but don't whine about you not being respected as a Black woman. But as a Black woman, you got everything out there on display.
I've been an artist a long time, and I've been around the game to understand hip hop and what it was actually invented for. It was a vehicle that was designed to get information from borough to borough. That's what it was designed to do. Now I'm in Texas and I've studied New York hip hop. And then it became another vehicle to get information out to our people. That's why groups like Public Enemy in the beginning was so influential, because they were there to get information out. Now, people say you've been around hip hop a long time. Yeah, I've been around hip hop since Ron was a DJ for Curtis Blow, since Jermaine Dupri was a roadie for Houdini when he was a kid. I've been around it that long. So, April, I love you. That shit wasn't going on in the 80s. Queen Latifah them didn't represent women like that. Even when Yo-Yo came out, she was trying to uplift Black women. No, that was not going on in the 80s. And I don't like it for one reason. Because I see the dudes get a lot of heat. I see the Gucci Mans and the Jeezys, and God bless them, last night they squashed their beef. But I see them, the T.I.s, get a lot of heat for what they say in a record. But somebody who degrades themselves as women, but yet want to act like Black women are being targeted and being drugged around. Y'all ain't got nothing to say about that? Well, don't say nothing the next time when he do talk about blowing somebody's brains out. Because remember, all they're trying to do is sell records. You do not have to exploit yourself. That's one thing that I will tell women when they want to sit down and they want to talk entertainment, that you do not have to exploit yourself to do what you need to do. Now, lyrically, people say that she's talented. And I say she is. Until I can figure out who's actually writing this shit for you. Does she sit down and actually think of herself in that manner to write lyrics like that for her? No, hell no. Let me tell you why I know that. Because I done ghost written for a lot of people. I'm cold with that pen, man. I'm cold. And some of the best songs I ever wrote were for women. Because I can see things that you can't see as an artist. So I can sit there and write that shit all day. I can look at you and let me see. She got to have a wet ass pussy. So let me write. Yeah. And then all you do is go in and you learn it. You learn it. So my problem with all of this is the exploitation of African-American women through the form of entertainment and music in 2020 to the level that they have taken it is just bullshit. And if you're comfortable with that, please do not say anything else about a Jeezy or a T.I. or anybody that's on the male side that's just trying to sell records. Donovan?
I mean, wholeheartedly agree. I mean, you know, and I know times have changed and the different, you know, eras have come and gone and things like that. But it's just like Frederica said in the comments, there's always going to be a double standard to how men do it versus women do it. But as women, and I'm talking from a man's point of view, how do you expect me to respect you when you're acting like some chick that I can just pull off the street that's trying to sell some product? You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to say that as nice as I possibly can. I mean, it just doesn't make sense. But you're demanding respect in one instance, but at the same time, you're portraying yourself in a different way. And Megan Thee Stallion, yes, she's a college graduate, but how many of us know that? How many of us know that? I wouldn't know her any different.
Use the game. You use the game. Now she already got her foot in the door. She got the deal. Okay, well, I tell you what you do now. Depending on how a deal is structured. Once you get your foot in the door, you got the deal. Go do you. Switch the game up. But see, they go sign them slave deals like Prince tried to tell y'all. And they will sit on these people's albums and won't release them because they don't like the content in them. So they need you to be a hoe. They need her to be less than what she really is. They don't look at you as a college graduate, even if they know. They look at you as a piece of pussy. That's how they look at you. I'm talking to you, lady, from an artist standpoint. Well, who are you? You've not sold no record. I'm one of the greatest motherfuckers to ever grace a microphone. I'm exactly what Willie Brown was in the movie Crossroads. I just never made a deal with the devil. God gave me all the talent in the world with music. He just didn't give me the money. And I can do it on any level. So any day you see this video and you in Houston and I want to test these skills, well, come on. Because I keep that microphone on me at all motherfucking times. I keep that microphone on me at all times. And this old man will bless your ass. But my thing is you do not have to subject yourself to this bullshit because you are highly talented. So I'm going to say it right now, and I want somebody to contradict me. Megan, you're nothing more than a wet pussy hoe. And guess what? Nobody here can contradict me because that's exactly what you say you are.
Well, so I'm looking at some of the comments here, and Janelle, how you doing? You say Choice. She was a rapper and out of Houston or Houston, Texas, I guess. And yeah, she was around in the 80s and the 90s, but I've never heard of Choice. Never heard of Choice until right now. So I just looked her up. Basically, she never charted. She wasn't mainstream. Yeah, some of her lyrics were pretty on the extreme side, but Megan, you can hear Megan all day long on a radio station for anybody's child, grandmama to hear. And then Saul, you brought up Madonna. Yeah, Madonna was raunchy for her time, and I'm actually a Madonna fan, but I still cannot find a Madonna lyric that even mirrors any of the stuff that these women are saying now. And I ask this all the time when we are talking about this, because there's people who throw different names out and things like that. Yeah, I'm not saying that we should indict Megan or Cardi or any of them. That stuff did not originate with them. But I impress upon you guys to find one Jewish woman and even a Mexican woman that's doing the what our Black women are out there doing. Like they are, just busting it open lyrically, talking about most female rappers nowadays. They are talking underneath their clothes. They are not saying anything of value, right? And like I said, we're all old enough, at least us on this panel. We were there at the beginning of hip hop, and we've seen, a lot of these things unfold. And I'm telling you, with that deception of Choice and maybe some other people, like I said, Choice wasn't mainstream. They wasn't playing her stuff on the radio like that. But they just didn't do that. Women, they were not going to be. And Gary, I'm preaching to the choir. Women weren't going to be wasn't going to be respected talking like that. And they had to actually bring some heat to the microphone.
Queen Latifah was giving checkups from the neck up. Her first record was Ladies First. Then when she did UNITY, she started the record off with, who you calling a bitch? Come on, y'all. It's real with that, man. If you will allow these record companies to pimp you, then that's what they will do. Till this day, I didn't see Barack invite Cardi to the White House. He invited MC Light. I've never seen the ass cheeks of MC Light, Queen Latifah, or Salt and Pepper? You didn't have to, because the only thing that mattered was what was coming through that microphone. That was it. You're not selling records, baby. You're selling sex. You're not selling records. You know, Pimp C, God bless him, one of the greatest to ever do it. Pimp will tell you in a heartbeat, man, you can have all the money in the world, but if your record is boo-boo, that's just what he was gonna tell you. It ain't gonna matter. The only thing that matter is what come through them speakers. You see what I'm saying? Beyonce, you know, she dresses provocatively. I think she just, her music and the whole ambiance of what she does, it doesn't really go over to the extreme. It stops. It's at the edge. Jay-Z and them folk there, they work with Beyonce, right? Nigga, won't you do that shit with your wife instead of the other female artists? Won't you pimp your motherfucking wife like you pimping these young girls, man? I got a problem with it, man. I got a problem with it. And then they'll bring these people back to our cities and parade these suckers through our schools oh, well, Megan Thee Stallion is coming at this school today. Stay your funk ass up out of our schools with that bullshit. We got enough going on with the influential shit that's going through our kids' minds. Baby, why don't you try writing something that could uplift women, that could help you keep your motherfucking drawers on, and we ain't got to worry about seeing your wet ass pussy.
Yes, yes. You know, and the funny thing is I kind of like when we talk about the music industry and the entertainment industry, well, especially the music, because the 5-star, that's his hardcore foundation in the music. And you can kind of tell how far people go back when they start listing all these different groups and stuff like that. And I was a big, being from the West Coast, the G-Funk sound. I was really big into it. One of a group that I used to love. And I wasn't really big into female rappers back in the day, but you know, there were some that, like you guys said, were spitting fire. Of course, being West Coast, Yo-Yo always led the way. She, you know, had her little group that was uplifting young girls and stuff. The IBWC, I think it was the name of the acronym. But there was a group up in East Bay, the Conscious Daughters, and they were produced by Paris. Remember that the artist Paris up there? And those girls were talking, even though they were talking street, they were also talking like respectability and, you know, doing what you got to do, you know. So some of you guys listening tonight, it's Friday night, it's the weekend. Go in that garage, go through them crates, you know, pull it out, see if it brings back some good memories.
I tell you, man, that I went on tour with the Conscious Daughters in Bahamadia, and you know, back in the day, I was blessed, man, because I did a lot of stuff. So I got to see some of these people, and what they projected in their music is who they truly were. They were respectable people, man. You know, but when you out there and you want respect as a black woman, and the best song you can write is you got a big dick and know how to use it. But you want respect. But if Monroe sits on this show and call you a hoe, I'm a misogynist. I disrespect black women. You see what I'm saying? When you listen to my music, people say, man, I get the message that you're preaching. You know, and I'm gangsters all like those, but that ain't my music. That wasn't what I was doing. If you listen to my music by making money. Any way that I could make money. But when some people listen to it, man, you glorifying this here. Well, they glorifying that shit. You know, and that's the double standard right there. You want to talk down on the dudes because they doing what they doing, but the women get a pass because they just women. I don't care if they get a pass or not. I feel she disrespecting herself. And when the industry get tired of her ass, remember this rule, baby. You're only as good as your last record. So all that shit they giving you, all them cars that's being leased, them houses that you staying in that ain't in your name, when you ain't selling enough records, all that shit gonna go away. And then guess what? I had a song where I said, all you gonna be back in the projects, wherever the fuck you came from, because they're going to put you on a bus or Uber and they're going to drop you off right back where you came from. And then what are you going to do? Think about it when you watch the New Edition store where that bus was dropping them kids off at. It'll drop you off right back where you came from because you don't serve a purpose anymore. And that was one reason when Snoop signed with No Limit, he wouldn't take that house that P offered him because he needed his shit in his name. But the rest of us, we just take this shit and run with it. And for those that feel I don't use the right verbiage and all this here, know one thing. I talk a certain way. I talk like I'm from the hood, but I can read a music contract all day with my fucking eyes closed. One, I need to know when you're going to pay me. Two, I need to know when this contract going to start. Three, I need to know how many options it is. So if you want to sign me, I'm going to tell you what I'm going to take. I want $250,000 up front for a production budget. I want a 2-album, not years, 2-album, 3rd album option at my discretion. That's what I want. So guess what Monroe never did? Sign a major label deal because I could read that goddamn contract. And I knew what I wanted. And by the way, ain't no deferment on the date. From when I signed this contract, you got 90 days from the day I signed this contract to put my first project out. You ain't finna wait 5-6 years to put no project out on me. You'll keep me locked in. And Donovan, you're gonna love this here. I signed with a local dude one time and I wasn't feeling it. And I always had a loophole in my contract. I made sure I did. And I told him, I said, I want to go. I'm not feeling this. Well, I'm not letting you go. I could get my homeboy, my former manager, Big Rob, on this show right now. Rob will tell you, man, I got a phone call. I need to come to the studio right now. What's going on, Rob? Man, Monroe is standing over this man board with 5 gallons of gas and finna burn his shit down. I want out this contract. I'll burn this bitch to the ground.
You went in there and did a Suge Knight.
I meant what I said. And every track that I did, I wanted out your system. You're not keeping my music. And that's what it was. So, you know, if you don't know the game, they'll pimp you in the game.
I mean, if we go back, let's say 80 years, you hear all of these, success to misery stories, especially in the record industry. And Prince in the 90s had like foretold what was going to happen, especially with the internet and all that other stuff. And then he became a pariah. You know, you talk about like being on the, when you're on the plantation versus being off. How the hell can they just give you this kind of money? And then once they're done with you, they make all the money off of your intellectual property, things that you did, but you have no claim to it whatsoever. It's all theirs and they can repackage it and just keep making. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. But yet this industry can do that. Try
it this way. Dimitri, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's see if you know. How many writers on a song?
Hell, depending on who the artist is, it could be in the 20s.
Okay, let's just say it's Megan, one artist. So how many writers are on a song? Let's just say if she did WAP, I don't even want to say it, it aggravates me. Let's say she did the song WAP by herself. How many writers on the song?
Yeah, lyric
by herself. I mean, if I'm assuming
that's where you're wrong. It's always 2 writers on a song. Now I'm gonna take you back a little bit, and it's real quick. Remember back when Quincy Jones and Miles Davis them were doing music? You always see the documentary of them writing the music. So instead of writing music nowadays, we have what we call producers. So the producer who produces the music is the second writer on the song. Now, both writers have, they got publishing on this song. They own 100% of the publishing from what they wrote. The way the music industry gets you is they make you sign over your publishing, because your publishing is what allowed Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, Paul McCartney to never do albums but once every 10 years. They continuously made money off their publishing. So now I'm not lying, because now I'm going to take you to the 5 heartbeats. Remember when Jimmy was in the office with Big Red when he was finna sign him? And he say, man, this look good. You know, what about the publishing? Big Red say, oh, we can talk about it. It's 2 writers on every song. But see, I know this because I never wanted to be the rapper. I wanted to own the record label. And this is what I'm teaching kids in our entertainment academy. You see, they thought it was 1 writer. No, if you did the beat, you the 2nd writer. That's why Manny Fresh ended up leaving Cash Money, because they were beating him out of money. But here's the thing. They don't beat you out of nothing. You got to sign your money away.
Now, let me ask you this. Let's say, you and Demetria wrote a song, right? And I just put the word or the sentence supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, whatever, in there, in the song. Does that make me a writer as well?
Yep. And you own just as much of the publishing as we own.
I'm in the wrong business.
I seen some shit back in the day with Death Row with Daz. Daz wasn't even doing no motherfucking beats. Daz would come in there and Danny Boy beat, well, what's the boy that did the song? Sam Snead would be in there working on a beat. And Daz, the beat would be done. Daz would walk in the room and tell Sam, say, man, you need some bells on that motherfucker. So Sam will go in there and put ding, ding, ding. Daz don't have to publish it. He don't have to publish it. Just from putting some fuck ass bells on the song. Because they had to learn the game the hard way. And that's why some people like a Daz don't really hurt for money right now. Because they still making money off of it. You see what I'm saying? So if Megan doesn't own the rights, you can own your masters. Who gives a fuck if you own your masters if you don't own the publishing? You see what I'm saying? If you don't own the publishing, it don't matter.
So basically, when everybody got upset when Quincy Jones basically sold Motown to Universal Records or whoever the deal is, everybody was upset because, oh my God, it's our black thing. You can't do that. But here's the thing with it. Here's the thing. He kept 80% of the publishing, which is Motown, correct?
That's Berry Gordy.
Berry Gordy, yeah, Berry Gordy. So by keeping 80%, he basically kept Motown. He just sold the entity of Motown away.
Exactly. So, I mean, people like Megan, I think Megan would be in a different level right now. She'd still be big if her mom hadn't died. Those from Houston that know her mom know mom didn't play them games. She was real with it. Pimp C, UGK didn't blow up until Mama West got involved because she was straight up gangster. She understood the game, but the thing is it's not hard to figure out. It's really up to you how much money you want to make. People like, well, they gave me $250,000 to sign. Well, how did they give it to you? Is that your budget for to produce the album? Because everything you get, you're going to pay back. Every single thing you get, you're going to pay back. Every time they run that video on whatever, they got to pay for that. And that comes out of their money. I was around a record label and the checks came in one day. I ain't going to say what label. I ain't going to say what artists. It was 3 people in the group. One artist got $1 million check. The other artist got $300,000. And the last artist got $300,000. But they was in the group together. And the reason that boy got $300 because he didn't write a goddamn thing.
That sounds like the Commodores. Like the Commodore story, where Lionel was writing all that music and stuff, and his check was a lot bigger. And everybody started, and the grumbling started happening and stuff like that. That's like a Commodore story.
Well, somebody here just asked a good question. Where's Lizzo? You're only as good as your last record. When you was out there showing
twerking on TikTok.
Yeah, but when you were out there showing naked ass and you was hot, the shit was fun and games. Now you can't sell a record. They don't give a damn about Lizzo right now. And trust me, these people don't be having the money they act like they have, man. I've seen platinum artists laying on people's couches, man. I'm like, is this what it's about? Oh, hell no, I ain't doing this. I sat in a meeting in Copeland's in New Orleans with Eazy wife, Tamika Wright, who came down from California to see me and my partner perform. And she say, you the realest I ever met. This is what she told me, this Eazy wife. So, you know, you ready to do these videos? You ready to have this big house and all these cars? I say, no disrespect. And my homeboy like, oh, here this nigga go. I say, no disrespect, but I got a big house. I got 4 cars in the driveway. The only thing you do for me is write me a check. She said, I like you. I like you too. Now, do you have a big desk in the office? Is it the same office that Eazy sat in? I'm talking about Eazy. Because from a music perspective, you can't run game on me. You couldn't run game on me at all. So I just think that, you know, Demetria would be a great female artist because she would present the right image for young girls. And if they want to be a rapper, and I'm using her as an example, you don't have to get naked, baby. You can be a strong black woman. You don't have to show everything to be the coldest to ever do it. Ask Queen Latifah. Without a doubt, to me, the coldest female artist to ever grace the planet. And I ain't never seen her ass. The closest thing I ever came to seeing was her titties and Set It Off. That was it. But from a music perspective, she never disrespected herself.
Well, she did do the Bessie Smith story where she did show her top. Yeah.
I need to go watch that then.
And not only that, you know, with Queen Latifah is a conglomerate. Queen Latifah went on, I think she at one point, I don't know, 200 million, maybe she's worth that. I mean, out of all the things she's had, you know, makeup contracts, movie deals, and she founded, you know, Naughty by Nature. That is her group.
Illtown Records with her high school friend. They're behind Illtown Records.
So yeah, so Queen Latifah, you know, transitioned her rap career into something major. I mean, you know, who doesn't know Queen Latifah? But you know, Gary, when you were talking about people getting beat out of the contracts, Cadillac Records talked about that. There's documentaries on Netflix called Remastered, where they have one called The Two Killings of Sam Cooke, and they talk about what happened to him. And when you watch it, you'll see why they talk about the 2 killings, because they told us one story, but when they actually did the research and the investigation, it's like, wait a minute, Gary, you'll really love that one. We should probably talk about it. And another one called The Lion Sleeps Tonight. It was about a South African guy in the 1930s, Solomon, I forget his last name, but he came up with the song, The Lion Sleeps Tonight. White people didn't know where the song came from, and they brought it over here to America, hijacked this man's song, and changed it to a Awimbawe. But he was actually saying something in South African or Swahili, and they didn't know what he was saying, and so they made it up. I mean, you guys, I'm gonna give it away, but it just shows what happens when people aren't educated. Like Gary was saying, he understood how the dynamics of the contracts. And speaking of which, wasn't Megan Thee Stallion just in a fight with her handlers or her peoples behind her record deal? But it's like you out there shaking ass.
But when that came up about her contract, she signed a 360 deal, and people were upset. Oh, they trying to beat her. No, a 360 deal is designed the way it was designed. Leon Cohen, when he was at Def Jam, invented the 360 deal because the record labels were putting up all their money, you know, for these kids that they didn't know that was going to make it. So the only money that the kids had access to that was totally theirs was your show money. That's why Ludacris didn't give a damn, because he stayed on the road. So he gonna get him 50, 60,000 a night. That's why Lil Boosie got the money he got. He stays on the road.
Yeah, in the 90s, Prince stayed on the road. Stayed on the road. He said that's where he got a lot of money.
But when you're in a 360 deal, when you sign that 360 deal, that means it's in a circle. That means the record label owns everything in that circle. They own your merchandising. They own your publishing. They own your show money, all that. But that's your signature at the bottom of that contract. They didn't beat you. They put something in front of you. And your lawyer told you it was fine for you to sign it. So they didn't beat her out of shit. You know, she did that to herself. You know the craziest contract I ever saw, D?
Bible say because she was ignorant, that's the way she was running around that they got her.
No, she was supposed to be ignorant. But the ignorant one was the lawyer that told her to sign it. You see what I'm saying? That the worst contract I ever saw was between Don King and Larry Holmes. Don King gave this man a blank piece of paper. Told him just sign the bottom of it. I fill the words in later. The man signed the contract, and when he got it back, the motherfucker say he got $1 a fight for the next 7 fights. But it's
and then you sign with like a Don King. His brother was the manager. His friend was the lawyer. I mean, he had everything locked down where all the money was going back to Don King. It was just crazy. It was crazy.
Look at Death Row. That's your neck of the woods. One, I'm never gonna sign with a record label and then sign with an in-house management company. Not gonna happen. Because if I got a problem with the record label, with Suge, but I'm signed to his wife's management company, who the hell you think she working for? Your manager supposed to fight for the best interest of you. But she goes to bed every night with the president and the CEO of the record label. I always had an outside manager. So if you don't know the business, just say you don't know the business. You know, but don't act like the business fucked over you when that's your name at the bottom of them contracts. So no, Suge didn't fuck over nobody. Jay Prince didn't fuck over nobody. They presented you a proposal that was in the best interest of their company. And you chose not to do what I normally do. When I get a contract, I take it to my lawyer. He looks over that contract, and then he'll draw up a separate contract that's in the best interest of me. And we'll submit them both back to the record label with a clear understanding he's only going to sign the one that's in the best interest of him. So if they agree to it, then they have to go back and rewrite it the way that my lawyer did. He goes back and he checks it again to make sure ain't no verbiage change from what was in the best interest of me, and then I will sign that contract.
Now, you know, but when it comes to these contracts, is it a coincidence that a lot of these contracts, like the TLC contract, the Tony Braxton contract, you know, it's always with these young artists, you know, when they're just coming in? Do you think that that's done in the industry, like on purpose because of their night? You know, if I'm a young person, I just want to hear my name on the, you know, radio. I'm just excited and I don't really care. And I think, okay, well, I didn't make money this album, I'll make it on the next album and so on. Do you think that's why they kind of pursue these younger artists, because they don't really know the business?
That's exactly why they pursue them. So you and Dimitri, y'all in a group. Y'all live in the projects. You're barely eating every other night. You feel what I'm saying? You ain't got shit. I show up at the Clear Blue. I like what y'all doing. Look, I want to sign you. Okay, well, how much money? I'm tell you what we're gonna do. We're gonna give you 100,000 up front. I ain't gonna tell you what I'm giving you the 100,000 for. I'm gonna give you 100 G's up front, and I want you to sign this contract. Here you go. I'm coming back tomorrow. I need the paperwork if you want it. If not, I'm gonna find me some more artists. Now remember, you ain't got a pot to piss in, a window to throw it out of. You either selling dope, barely eating every day. What you gonna do? You can, and I'm gonna tell you straight up, if you sign with me, I'm gonna take you from the projects to the penthouse overnight. What y'all want to do? Remember in the New Edition story, that's exactly what the manager told the white boy when he came back after he got fired. I know you just got you some dumb Negroes from the projects, because he knew the game. You see what I'm saying? So what you gonna do? You got one shot at this. What you gonna do? I sat in a room with Slim and Baby from Cash Money. I listened to the pitch, but I wouldn't sign it. That was before the Hot Boys. I wouldn't sign it. And the reason why, I'm not signing a 10 album deal. And back then they were dropping albums every month. Fuck no, I'm not doing that. Wanted me to write a song. I write it. What type of money we talking about? What type of publishing? Oh no, I take you over to First and Claiborne and get you a gold put in your mouth. I'm telling y'all the truth. Nah, that ain't gonna work for me. And the one deal I turned down, I had wrote a song for a platinum artist. And the name of the song was called Checkmate. And the idea to the song is I take all the pieces of the chessboard, I put them in the hood, and I center the whole song around macking abroad. Because the object of a chess game is to corner the queen. Once you corner the queen, you win, right? So I took this song and I had the rooks and the knights and the pawns all doing all kinds of things. So we talked, they love the song. What kind of money we talking about? I said, well, I tell you what, this is what I want. Now, you'll give it to me, Dimitri. You'll give it to me. Everybody here listening will give it to me. I tell you what I want. Give me a penny a copy. If he goes gold, I make $125. Man, we can't do that. You mean to tell me you can't give me 1 penny for one record? Now go back to Toni Braxton. She had to file bankruptcy. She wasn't making over 2 cents per record. This is why the Two Shorts and the Eazy-E said, fuck them, and sold the records out the back of their car. You don't want to give me a penny? I'm going to get $10 out the back of my car. Master P, I'm going to get $10 out the back of my car. P signed the best deal that's ever been signed in music history because he was smart. Man, get 85% of what he sell. They didn't think he would do nothing. But he had that hustle in him. And they gonna forever pay him. So yeah, they look. They purposely go to the hood and find these people. But I joke about P all the time. I say, well, when the show was over, Dimitri, he dropped all the soldiers back off in the projects.
Who was the first rapper to get $1 an album?
Ooh, man, I'd have to research that one because I'm gonna be honest. Back in the day, in the early days, you just didn't get that. But I'll tell you, one of the best labels. I mean, I'd have to research it because one of the best labels to ever be on, even till this day, was Def Jam. You've never really heard an artist complain about Russell not paying them their money back in the day. And Russell will tell you, when I read his book, and I read LL's book because L said the same thing. He said the first week when he put out I Need a Beat, that was his first single, Russell brought him a check for $50,000. And Russell said, I didn't have a problem giving him $50,000 because I had made far more. He said, but I believe that nobody's going to show up for work if you don't pay them what they're supposed to make. So most Def Jam artists always ended up getting their money. You know, some of them blew it. DMX, this dude was so hot, it was ridiculous. I mean, at one time, this dude got 2 albums and they running 1 and 2 in the charts at the same time. And that crack just derailed him.
So if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Vanilla Ice, who also got shook down by Suge Knight. I believe he was the first one to get $1 an album, but that reminds me too, when you were talking about artists were releasing albums, you know, just back to back. That's what happened with Tupac. He was trying to get out of his record deal with Suge Knight after Suge Knight, you know, sprung him out of jail. He was beholden to him for a bunch of records. And so you guys remember at one point in time, Tupac was releasing albums back to back simply because he was trying to get out of that contract, trying to hurry up and honor it. And then, of course, we know what happened.
Well, if people go do their history on Pac, a lot of people like, you know, I don't understand. Pac had money. I say Pac didn't have no money, man. Pac didn't have no money, man. I say the night he got shot in Quad Studios, he was on his way to do a track for $7,000. And when he got shot, Pimp C even said, I don't know how the fuck they shot him because I ain't even on his level and I don't charge $7,000 for a fucking track. Pimp was charging $10,000. So Pac didn't have no money. Pac had signed bad deals. And I think that's what got him killed with Death Row because he wanted out of that deal. He finally saw his worth. And they wasn't gonna let him out that deal. So that's why I think he ended up getting killed, because he wanted out that deal.
That's why I was saying, watch, the two killings of Sam Cooke. It kind of talks about all of that. But Al wants to know, between Houston rap and Dallas rap, which one do you think is the best?
Throughout the course of history, I mean, if you just talking about, like the artists that are regional, that that were hot, that never blew up, I'm gonna ride with Houston. And then of course, if you talk about nationally, I mean, I gotta ride with Houston because I always tell people Bun and Pimp are not from Houston, they from Port Arthur, Texas. They from Port Arthur, Texas. Let's get that straight. So if I gotta ride with Houston, I'm gonna ride with Face. I got more platinum albums, but I will say that one of the greatest rappers of all time, and Dr. Dre will tell you, Snoop will tell you, is the DOC, because that boy with that pen is cold as ice water, man. The DOC was one of the greatest to ever do it. If he never gets in that wreck and doesn't mess his voice up, the DOC would be one of the biggest rappers to ever have touched the game. So Dallas and Houston have a rich history of music. I just think right now Dallas is doing far more than Houston because they stay active. They don't just, not do things. But, Atlanta, I love Atlanta because I love the camaraderie of the artists from Atlanta. They seem to all work with each other. Sooner or later, they all gonna work with each other. Houston has a hating spirit. That cannot happen. But Houston and Dallas, I'd have to ride with Houston. But from a national perspective, I love Face. That's my brother. And I love the DOC, man. DOC, one of the greatest. Ain't no Chronic without the DOC. Let's put it like that. With everything he wrote on there, really, after Cube left, NWA. Ain't no NWA without the DOC, man.
Right. And then, when he put out his album, I always tell people that if he had the Mount Rushmore, the greatest albums of all time, the DOC's No One Can Do It Better has to be in the top 10. It might not be number one, because here's a guy that wrote an album during the gangsta era, not one curse word in it, not one. You listen to the No One Can Do It Better, not one curse word.
DOC was special, man. I mean, he really was special. And if people don't believe it, go see if you can find out all his writing credits from the NWA era as well from the Death Row era. Some of us just like me. I'm not a battle rapper, but I can write all day. I can write a song in 10 minutes. Just tell me what you want, and it's what it is. I can write it any way you want it. Some days I get a little stuck on something. I call my homeboy in Oklahoma City, in the country. Say, man, I'm finna sing you something, write this song. And I give it to him. He'll send it back. Blam, there it is. Some of us just could write. But the DOC is without a doubt one of the greatest to ever do it, man.
I know. I absolutely agree. And I see Ron Terrell, you brought up Devin the Dude. I don't know if a whole lot of, I'm sure a lot of people know about him, but yeah, he was also a very great lyricist. So anyway, yeah, I mean, I just, in regards to Megan Thee Stallion, and again, it's not just her. I think she's just doing what pays people. But like I said, I just take exception to you being mad about not being respected, and I can see all your innards when you bend over, You're not leaving, a whole lot to the imagination. And so I don't know. I think that's here to stay, unfortunately. But again, for those of you guys who co-sign it and think it's okay, I just impress upon you to ask yourself, name one Jewish woman, Mexican woman, Asian woman, that's doing what our women are doing. They would be shunned. They would be shunned and, and dealt with somehow. I don't know how, but that wouldn't be acceptable. But we make excuses and concessions for our women to behave in such a deplorable manner. And then we wonder why our children, especially our young girls, are doing some of the things they're doing. You know, like you guys might have saw the video a couple months back where a lady was whooping her daughter because her daughter got a hold of her phone and I guess was mimicking WAP or something. I don't know. And she beat the daylights out of this little girl. But it's like, you know, whose fault is this really that this little girl, she couldn't have been no more than 8, has gotten your phone or whatever, gotten on your social media and is doing the things she was doing. I mean, somehow she saw that. And so I just think it's till we as Black people say, you know what, enough is enough. We will no longer be participating in your garbage. We want some more wholesome content to come out because our children are watching. And yeah, we are ultimately responsible for the things that our children see. But I firmly believe that if we started to shun that stuff as a society, a Black society, then people would think twice about releasing that stuff. And I also say too, for somebody like Megan Thee Stallion, Cardi B, where are you going to go from there? Where are you going to go write children's books? I mean, like, where do you go from there once it starts to sag and bag and all that? Like, what do you do after that? You know, where do you go?
Final thoughts, Mr. Donovan.
Final thoughts, you guys. It's the weekend again. We are in a there's a killer on the loose, serious pandemic. I know everybody's getting ready to go to Big Mama's to have the Thanksgiving dinner. Everybody's getting sick and tired of being in the house and on this lockdown and all these curfews. You've got to take this stuff seriously. Just because you're related to somebody doesn't mean you can't get this virus. Big Mama is in danger. Pawpaw is in danger. All of them are in danger. Just stay to yourselves and we'll get through this together. Just be safe. It is the weekend. Be safe out there. And we're going to see you guys on Monday. And do not forget to download the Hot 100 app. Want to listen to one of the hottest shows in the country.
Street 100.
Yeah, Street 100. Hottest shows in the country. That is the Warzone morning show. So check it out.
Do you want final thoughts or was that your finals? I tell you what, man. Megan, do what you do. Try to get as much out as you can. Save your money because the way this thing is set up, you're gonna need it. But you know, I don't believe that she writes all of that stuff, but you know, it is what it is. And this is a prime example. I love this song. I went to the strip club. I saw what I saw, and I called my partner. Say, man, I can't seem to get it. He say, send it to me. I sent it to him. He wrote it. He sent it back, and we end up with. Can y'all hear that?
Usually it's late night club action ain't going like it supposed to. The naked ain't popping, so what a nigga gon' do? I peep the scenery and spin a little greenery by the bar for the bitch. Now the bitch ain't leaving me. She spitting game, trying to get in my head. Bossing the conversation, how she crossing the lanes. She give me glimpses of that fat thing. I see images of your boy breaking it down from the back, man. I'm about to take you for a ride, man. See, you can meet me outside by the 745, man. She walk away and I finally scoped the back shot. This girl finer than a bitch, I blew her back out. And she a 10 with it. We both playing games. It ain't no losing, but I still don't know shorty name. But it's just something by the way that she walk. But let me see what you working with, girl, when you take off them boy shorts.
Oh yeah, let me get you out the boy shorts, get you out the boy shorts. Say my mama wanna hit it. Let me get you out the boy shorts, get you out the boy shorts. Since I'm here, you gotta get it. Let me get you out the